Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that often pulls us in many directions. Our senses are bombarded daily with distractions, and our minds weighed down by the pressures of life. It's easy to get lost in the turmoil of our problems, to become consumed by them, and to believe that the world is defined solely by what we see and experience on the surface. But what if I told you that the key to overcoming the darkness of our problems lies not in fighting against them, but in shifting our focus entirely? What if, instead of fixating on our fears, doubts and obstacles, we choose to focus on something greater, something eternal, something that transcends the temporal world of our troubles? What if we choose to focus on God? The truth is that our inner worlds are not separate from the challenges we face. Our problems often stem from the depths of our own psyche, arising from the shadows of our unconscious, the unresolved fears, the unacknowledged pains, and the doubts we carry within. We are constantly pulled between the conscious and the unconscious, and in this tension, the world outside of us can seem overwhelming. But here's the power of focus. By directing our attention to God, whether that God manifests as a personal faith, a higher power, or the divine order of the universe, we begin to transcend the constraints of the ego and unlock a higher, truer self within us. The psyche is not a battleground for external forces, but a complex and sacred space where light and shadow intertwine. We are not here to simply suppress our fears and doubts, but to integrate them, to face them with courage and wisdom. Our problems are not enemies to be defeated. They are opportunities for growth. The key is to shift our focus from the battles of the mind to the stillness of the divine. When we turn to God, we are not avoiding our problems, but transforming them. We allow ourselves to be guided by a higher wisdom that helps us understand the deeper meaning behind our struggles, showing us that our trials are part of a larger journey, one that leads us toward healing and wholeness. This is where faith enters. Faith is not a passive belief. It is an active choice to trust in something greater, to surrender the weight of our concerns and place them in the hands of the divine. Faith in God is a reminder that no matter how real our problems may seem, they are part of a much larger story, one that is beyond our understanding. It is through this faith that we find the courage to face what lies before us, to see our challenges not as obstacles, but as stepping stones on the path to our own personal transformation. So, when the world seems heavy and the weight of your problems pulls at your heart, remember, the solution is not in fixating on the storm, but in turning toward the light. Focus on God, not your problems. When you do, the shadows of your fears and doubts will no longer control you. You will find peace in the presence of the divine and strength in the knowledge that you are never alone in your journey. The human mind, in its complexity, is often at war with itself. In the hustle of everyday life, it's not uncommon for an individual to feel overwhelmed by the weight of their thoughts, emotions and struggles. These inner conflicts and external pressures, be they financial burdens, relationship issues, health concerns or existential questions, can push one into a state of constant anxiety and unrest. The mind becomes fixated on these problems, often losing sight of anything beyond them. It becomes like a person walking through a dense forest, unable to see the sky, the horizon, or the path that could lead them out of the thicket. It is in such moments that focusing on something higher, something greater than ourselves, becomes not only helpful but vital to our spiritual and mental well-being. In the context of this, focusing on God or a divine presence can act as a powerful tool for transcending the immediate turmoil and reconnecting with a sense of peace, purpose, and alignment with the deeper layers of existence. At the core of human consciousness lies a tension between the conscious and unconscious parts of the mind. The conscious mind is busy processing thoughts, analyzing situations, and dealing with immediate concerns. It is constantly engaged with the world around us, attempting to make sense of our experiences. In contrast, the unconscious mind operates in the background, storing memories, emotions, and desires that are not readily accessible to the conscious mind. Both realms of the mind have their respective roles. One deals with the present and the other houses the deeper, often hidden aspects of our psyche. However, the unconscious is not just a repository for repressed thoughts and feelings. It is also the realm of our deeper truths, the home of our spiritual essence, and the place where we encounter our higher potential. When we focus solely on our problems, we are engaging with the conscious mind's immediate need to solve and resolve. This can lead to a narrowing of vision, a tunnel-like focus that makes everything seem insurmountable. The more we focus on the problem, the more entrenched we become in it, to the point where we begin to identify ourselves with the problem. I am stressed, I am overwhelmed, I am incapable. These become the narratives that shape our self-perception. In these moments, the self becomes so consumed by the issue at hand that it loses sight of the larger context. But the mind, when directed properly, is capable of seeing beyond the immediate struggle and connecting with a higher plane of understanding. Focusing on God provides a means of stepping outside of this narrow, problem-focused perspective. By turning our attention to the divine, we invite an awareness that transcends the immediate chaos. This shift in focus does not mean ignoring the problems or pretending they don't exist, but rather elevating our consciousness to a place where these problems can be seen from a larger, more holistic perspective. In this state of higher awareness, we begin to realize that we are not just our problems. Our essence is far greater than any temporary struggle. We are connected to a deeper source, one that can guide us through the storm rather than leave us adrift in it. The process of focusing on God, whatever form or conception of the Divine One adheres to, serves as a reminder that there is something beyond the transient nature of human life. When we focus on something higher than ourselves, we are not merely attempting to escape from our problems, but instead seeking alignment with a purpose that transcends the material world. This alignment with a higher purpose allows us to reconnect with our authentic self, one that is not defined by external circumstances, but by an inner sense of being. This higher self is not burdened by the trials and tribulations of daily life. Rather, it exists in a state of peace, trust, and grace. The human mind, in its most evolved form, is capable of not just surviving, but thriving amidst adversity. However, this requires a shift in perspective. The key to thriving in life is not just to respond reactively to what is happening around us, but to engage with life from a place of inner peace. Focusing on God allows us to tap into that inner peace, enabling us to see beyond the immediate turmoil and embrace a larger vision for our lives. It helps us transcend the ego-driven need to control and manipulate the circumstances of our lives, reminding us that there is a greater flow at work, one that we can surrender to and trust. This process of transcendence is not about abandoning the self or relinquishing responsibility for one's life. On the contrary, it is about returning to the self in its most authentic, unencumbered form. When we allow ourselves to focus on the divine, we are reminded of our innate worth and value, independent of external circumstances. In this space, we no longer feel the need to define ourselves by our problems, fears, or shortcomings. Instead, we begin to see ourselves as part of a larger divine tapestry, each of us playing a unique role in the unfolding of life's story. This understanding gives us the strength to face our problems with a sense of clarity, purpose, and resolve. One of the most profound ways that focusing on God impacts the human psyche is through the process of surrender. In modern society, we are often taught to take control, to manipulate our environment, and to fix everything that goes wrong. This drive for control can lead to an immense amount of stress as we constantly attempt to manage the uncontrollable forces of life. However, when we focus on God, we are invited to surrender to a greater plan, one that may not always align with our limited understanding. This surrender does not mean passivity or resignation. Rather, it is an active choice to release the need for control and to trust that everything is unfolding as it should. In this surrender, we find liberation, not from our problems, but from the internal pressure to resolve everything on our own. By focusing on God, we open ourselves to the wisdom of the divine, allowing us to navigate our challenges with a sense of trust and peace. When we consciously choose to focus on God, we engage with a force that is not limited by time, space, or human understanding. This divine presence offers a perspective that is far broader than our own. It allows us to step back from the minutiae of daily life and connect with something eternal. In this connection, we can experience moments of clarity where everything falls into place, where the chaos of the mind quiets, and where we are able to see the path ahead more clearly. These moments of insight are not merely intellectual, they are deeply felt experiences that resonate with the core of our being. They remind us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, and that no matter how dark the times may seem, there is always light on the horizon. Focusing on God also serves as a reminder of our own inherent strength. When we feel overwhelmed by our problems, it is easy to forget the power we hold within. The divine, however, is a reflection of that inner strength, reminding us that we have everything we need to face our challenges. It is through this connection that we draw upon our inner resources, the wisdom and courage that have been dormant within us all along. By focusing on God, we are reminded that we are not alone in our struggles and that we have the capacity to rise above them, just as we have done countless times before. Life is full of challenges, obstacles, and difficulties that we must face. These challenges often come in many forms: emotional, physical, financial, and relational. They can feel overwhelming, leaving us unsure of how to move forward. But beneath these challenges lies something profound and essential to human existence: the struggle between light and dark, or in psychological terms, the conflict between the conscious and unconscious parts of the mind. This internal conflict is not simply something to be avoided, rather it is something to be understood, embraced, and integrated. One of the most transformative aspects of human growth lies in how we handle these conflicts. Instead of seeing our struggles as threats to our well-being, we can learn to see them as opportunities for transformation and growth. This is where focusing on God or the divine comes into play. Often, when we encounter difficulties, we experience a sense of division within ourselves. We feel torn between the conscious need to solve our problems and the unconscious feelings and impulses that arise in response to those problems. This division creates inner tension, sometimes leading us to act impulsively or in ways that are not aligned with our higher selves. The unconscious mind, after all, is not just a passive repository of repressed emotions, but a rich and powerful source of insight, intuition, and wisdom. It holds parts of us that we may not always be aware of, and these hidden parts can influence our reactions to the world in ways we don't always understand. It is in this context that we can begin to understand the importance of integrating the shadow, a term often used to describe the hidden, unconscious aspects of the self. The shadow contains all the parts of ourselves that we either deny or are unaware of: our fears, insecurities, desires, and unresolved emotion. These are the aspects of ourselves that we may not want to acknowledge because they are uncomfortable or painful. However, it is through the integration of these aspects that we can achieve a more whole and authentic sense of self. Focusing on God helps us see that these parts of ourselves are not to be feared but embraced, for they are essential to our wholeness. When we focus on God, we are not merely engaging with a higher power for the sake of solace or comfort. We are inviting a deeper understanding of who we truly are. This understanding is not just a matter of intellectual knowledge, but of spiritual and emotional integration. It is through this process of spiritual focus that we can begin to bring our unconscious material into the light of consciousness. Rather than repressing our fears or ignoring our weaknesses, we begin to see them as part of the greater story of who we are. They are not the defining features of our identity, but integral pieces of a much larger puzzle. The more we can embrace our shadow, the more we can become whole and aligned with our true nature. This integration is a process that requires patience, courage, and faith. It is not always easy to confront the darker parts of ourselves, especially when these parts have been buried for a long time, but focusing on God provides a spiritual framework for this work. When we turn our attention to the divine, we are reminded that there is a larger context to our struggles. Our pain, our fears, and our uncertainties are not meaningless. They are part of a greater journey of transformation. Through this lens, our shadow is not something to be ashamed of, but something to be understood and integrated. It is through this understanding that we can move beyond the limitations of our ego and connect with a higher, more expansive sense of self. The process of integrating the shadow also involves recognizing that our struggles are not simply obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities for growth. In the same way that a seed must break through the soil in order to grow into a tree, we must often face discomfort and pain in order to grow spiritually and psychologically. This process of growth requires us to confront our inner conflicts, to look honestly at our fears and limitations, and to accept them as part of the human experience. When we focus on God, we are reminded that this growth is not something we must do alone. The divine presence supports us as we face our inner darkness, helping us transform our fears and doubts into sources of strength and wisdom. One of the key aspects of integrating the shadow is learning to recognize and embrace the deeper, often unconscious motivations behind our actions. We may, for example, react to a situation with anger or frustration without fully understanding why we are feeling that way. Upon closer examination, we might realize that these emotions are rooted in unresolved wounds from our past, perhaps feelings of rejection, inadequacy, or abandonment. These feelings, stored deep within the unconscious mind, influence how we respond to the present moment. The more we can bring these unconscious motivations into conscious awareness, the more we can begin to heal and transform them. Focusing on God allows us to see these deeper layers of ourselves with compassion and understanding, knowing that they are not who we truly are, but rather remnants of past experiences that can be healed. As we work to integrate the shadow, we also begin to realize that our problems and struggles are not separate from us, but are deeply connected to our own inner world. Our external difficulties are often reflections of our internal conflicts. For example, if we are struggling in a relationship, it may be because we have unresolved issues within ourselves, such as a fear of abandonment or a lack of self-worth, that are being triggered by the dynamics of the relationship. These issues may be unconscious, but they manifest in our outer world as problems and conflicts. By focusing on God, we gain the clarity and strength to examine these issues from a place of spiritual insight rather than from a place of fear or defensiveness. This allows us to see our problems not as external threats, but as opportunities for healing and integration. Furthermore, when we focus on God, we are reminded that we are not defined by our problems or our shadow. Our true nature is far greater than the struggles we face. The divine presence offers us a reminder that we are inherently whole and complete, even when we feel fragmented or broken. This understanding helps us approach our problems with greater humility and compassion. We no longer need to see our struggles as something to be ashamed of or hidden. Instead, we can view them as part of the ongoing process of becoming who we are meant to be. The more we embrace our shadow and allow it to integrate into our consciousness, the more we can step into the fullness of our true self. This process of integration is not an overnight journey. It requires dedication, patience, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. But it is also one of the most transformative and empowering experiences we can have. Focusing on God provides us with the spiritual foundation to do this work, as it reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. The divine presence supports us, guides us, and helps us see our shadows with greater clarity and compassion. By focusing on God, we gain the strength to face our fears, confront our inner conflicts, and integrate the unconscious parts of ourselves into our conscious awareness. This integration is the key to becoming whole, to healing the wounds of the past, and to stepping into a life of greater peace, purpose, and alignment. When we begin the process of integrating our shadow, we also begin to understand that our struggles are not separate from our spiritual journey. They are part of the larger process of personal and spiritual growth. Life is not just a series of problems to be solved, but a series of lessons to be learned. By focusing on God, we are able to view our struggles not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones on the path to greater wisdom and understanding. Each challenge we face offers us the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to transform. And it is through this transformation that we can truly become the person we are meant to be. Faith is a force that operates on a profound level within the human experience, transcending the boundaries of reason and intellect. It is a spiritual quality that resonates deep within the heart, creating a connection to something greater than ourselves. When faced with life's many struggles, the act of placing our faith in God or in a divine presence offers a source of strength, healing, and guidance. Faith in this sense becomes not just an abstract concept, but a vital and active part of our psychological and spiritual makeup. It enables us to navigate through life's difficulties with a sense of calm, purpose, and trust, regardless of the external circumstances we may face. It is the foundation of a deeper understanding of life's meaning and our place within it. In times of adversity, we are often consumed by the immediacy of our problems. Whether it's a personal crisis, a health issue, or a financial struggle, the weight of our circumstances can sometimes overshadow everything else. We tend to fixate on finding solutions or attempting to control outcomes, as though our happiness and well-being depend entirely on the resolution of these issues. However, there is another way to approach life's challenges, one that does not solely rely on our ability to fix or control everything around us. This alternative is found in faith. When we choose to place our faith in God, we shift our focus from the immediate temporary nature of our problems to a deeper understanding of existence. Faith invites us to surrender to a higher power and trust that, despite the difficulties we may face, there is a larger divine plan at work. It encourages us to recognize that we are not alone in our struggles. Faith in God offers the reassurance that there is a purpose behind the events in our lives, even if that purpose is not immediately clear. This belief in a higher order allows us to confront our problems with a sense of peace, knowing that they are part of a greater story. This process of surrendering to a divine plan does not imply passivity or resignation. On the contrary, faith empowers us to take action with confidence and clarity, knowing that we are supported by a force greater than ourselves. It is not about abandoning our responsibility or giving up on solving problems. Rather, it is about recognizing that we do not have to face life's challenges alone. By focusing on God and relying on faith, we can approach each obstacle with a sense of trust and courage, knowing that we are part of a larger, unfolding narrative that extends beyond the confines of our immediate concerns. One of the key aspects of faith is its ability to create a sense of inner peace. In the face of uncertainty, doubt, or fear, faith provides a steady anchor. It grounds us in the knowledge that there is a purpose to our lives and that the challenges we face are not arbitrary or meaningless. When we focus on God, we are reminded that there is a divine order to the universe and that we are part of that order. This perspective shifts our understanding of difficulties from being obstacles to being opportunities for growth and transformation. With faith, we are able to see beyond the surface level of our struggles and recognize the potential for personal development that lies within them. Each difficulty becomes a stepping stone toward greater wisdom and understanding, and each trial becomes a part of our spiritual journey. Faith also fosters resilience. When we face challenges, it is easy to feel defeated or overwhelmed. The weight of our problems can sometimes feel unbearable, and we may be tempted to give up or lose hope. However, faith provides the strength to persevere, even when the path ahead seems unclear. It is the belief that even in the darkest moments, there is a light that will guide us through. Faith enables us to continue moving forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. It reminds us that our struggles do not define us and that we are capable of overcoming them with the strength and support of the divine. Moreover, faith is not limited to moments of crisis or despair. It is a constant and ongoing practice that can be woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. By focusing on God, we can cultivate a deep sense of trust and confidence that transcends our circumstances. Faith allows us to move through life with a sense of peace and assurance, knowing that we are always connected to a higher source of wisdom and guidance. This connection is not something that is reserved for times of hardship, but something that can be accessed at any moment in any situation. Faith provides a foundation for living with purpose and intention, even in the absence of immediate challenges. Faith also offers healing. In times of suffering, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, faith has the power to bring comfort and restoration. When we place our trust in God, we open ourselves to the healing power of the divine. This healing may not always manifest in the way we expect. Sometimes it is not a physical cure, but a sense of inner peace, a shift in perspective, or a deepening of understanding. Healing through faith is a holistic process that encompasses not just the body, but the mind and spirit as well. It involves the recognition that we are more than our physical selves, and that true healing comes from aligning ourselves with the divine source of life. Furthermore, faith provides clarity in times of confusion. Life is full of moments when we feel lost or unsure of what direction to take. When faced with difficult decisions or uncertain circumstances, it can be easy to become paralyzed by doubt. However, faith offers the clarity to make decisions with confidence. When we focus on God, we are reminded that we are not making these decisions alone. We are guided by a higher wisdom, one that knows what is best for us, even if we cannot see it in the moment. Faith allows us to trust in the process, knowing that in time, the path will become clear. It encourages us to take steps forward, even when the way ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. In addition, faith helps us to cultivate gratitude. When we focus on God, we begin to recognize the blessings in our lives, even in the midst of struggle. Gratitude is a natural byproduct of faith, as it shifts our attention from what we lack to what we have by acknowledging the divine presence in our lives, we begin to see the abundance that surrounds us. Faith reminds us that even in difficult times, there are countless reasons to be thankful. This sense of gratitude fosters a positive outlook on life, allowing us to approach challenges with a sense of appreciation rather than frustration. Faith is also transformative. It has the power to change the way we see ourselves, others, and the world around us. By focusing on God, we align ourselves with a divine source that transcends our limited human perspective. This alignment enables us to see the world through a lens of compassion, understanding, and love. It opens our hearts to the possibility of growth, healing, and transformation. Faith allows us to move beyond our ego-driven desires and connect with a deeper sense of purpose. It reminds us that our lives are part of something much greater than ourselves, and that we are all connected by a divine force that unites us all. When we choose to place our faith in God, we are embracing a path of trust, surrender, and growth. Faith is not just about seeking divine intervention or hoping for change in our circumstances. It is about aligning ourselves with a higher power and trusting that, in doing so, we are fulfilling our true purpose. It is about recognizing that, regardless of the challenges we face, there is a greater plan at work, a plan that is designed for our highest good. Faith gives us the courage to move through life with an open heart and a trusting spirit, knowing that, no matter what, we are never alone on our journey. In conclusion, focusing on God rather than being consumed by the weight of our problems offers a transformative approach to life. When we direct our attention toward the divine, we shift from a limited, problem-centered perspective to a broader, more spiritual understanding of our existence. By focusing on God, we can transcend the narrow confines of our immediate struggles and reconnect with a deeper sense of purpose, peace, and inner strength. It is through this focus that we begin to understand that our problems are not insurmountable obstacles, but opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation. We have seen how, by embracing God, we integrate the unconscious parts of ourselves and confront the shadows that often shape our thoughts and behaviors. Focusing on the divine provides the courage and clarity to confront these hidden aspects, leading to a more whole, authentic self. Additionally, faith becomes the bedrock upon which we build resilience, clarity, and peace, empowering us to navigate life's challenges with trust, hope, and confidence, even when the outcome is uncertain. Ultimately, the act of focusing on God does not negate the reality of our problems, but offers us a new way of approaching them. It helps us see that we are not alone in our struggles and that we are part of a larger divine narrative that guides us toward personal and spiritual growth. In focusing on God, we step into a space where we can transcend our difficulties, heal our wounds, and embrace life with a renewed sense of purpose and grace. So let us remember that no matter how overwhelming the challenges may seem, when we focus on God, we find not just solace, but the strength to overcome, grow, and transform into the fullest version of ourselves.